Welcome to Omniacademy. This is Maria, and today we are starting our second lecture on the development of head and neck. In the last lecture, we studied the pharyngeal apparatus and one of its component, which was pharyngeal pouches. And today we are studying the second component of the pharyngeal apparatus, which is pharyngeal arches. So let's start the pharyngeal arches. So pharyngeal arch is composed of a mesodermal cell's core, which is covered by the surface ectoderm. Or you can also say that the pharyngeal arch is composed of a core of mesodermal cells, which is covered by neural crust cells. So the mesodermal cells which are present in the core of the pharyngeal arch will give rise to the muscular and vascular components in the body, and the neural crust cells which is covering the outside of the pharyngeal arch is giving rise to the skeletal components in the body. And these skeletal components can be the bone, the connective tissue, the ligaments, and the cartilage. Each pharyngeal arch is supplied by a specific cranial nerve. So let's now move to different pharyngeal arches and their derivatives. Each arch is giving rise to three categories of derivatives. Number one, the skeletal derivatives. Number two, the muscular derivatives. And number three, the aortic arch derivatives. So let's start with the pharyngeal arch 1, which is also known as the mandibular arch. So the skeletal derivatives of the mandibular arch include number 1, maxilla, number 2, mandible, number 3, malleus, number 4, incus, number 5, zygomatic bone, number 6, squamous temporal bone, number 7, vomer, and number 8, Meckel's cartilage, and number 9, sphenomandibular ligament. So these are the skeletal derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 1. So the muscular derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 1 include number 1, the muscles of mastication, number 2, mylohyoid muscle, number 3, anterior belly of digastric muscle, number 4, tensor tympani, and number 5, tensor palatine muscle. So these are the muscular derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 1. So let's now move to the aortic arch derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 1, which is maxillary artery. So these are the derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 1, and all the derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 1, including the pharyngeal arch and the embryo, is supplied by the maxillary and the mandibular divisions of the trigeminal nerve. So let's now move to the second pharyngeal arch, which is also known as the hyoid arch. So the skeletal derivatives of the hyoid arch include number 1, stapes, number 2, styloid process, number 3, lesser horn and superior body of hyoid bone, number 4, Richard's cartilage, and number 5, stylohyoid ligament. So these are the skeletal derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 2. The muscular derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 2 includes the muscles of facial expression number 1, number 2, the posterior belly of digastric muscle, and number 3, stapedius, and number 4, stylohyoid muscle. So these are the muscular derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 2. The aortic arch derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 2 include the hyoid and stapedial arteries. So the pharyngeal arch 2 and all the derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 2, including the skeletal, muscular, and the aortic arch derivatives, all of them are supplied by the facial nerve. So let's now move to the pharyngeal arch 3. So the skeletal derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 3 include the greater horn and inferior body of hyoid bone. The muscular derivatives of the arch 3 include the stylopharyngeus muscle. And the aortic arch derivative of the pharyngeal arch 3 include the internal and common carotid arteries. So the pharyngeal arch 3 and all the derivatives of it, including the skeletal, muscular, and aortic arch derivatives, are supplied by the glossopharyngeal nerve. So let's now move to the fourth arch and its derivatives. So let's now start the arch 4. The arch 4 skeletal derivatives include the thyroid cartilage. The muscular derivatives of the arch 4 include number 1, the muscles of soft palate except the tensor veripalatini, number 2, the muscles of pharynx except the stylopharyngeus, and number 3, the cricothyroid muscle. So these are the muscular derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 4. The aortic arch derivatives of the pharyngeal arch 4 include the arch of aorta and the right subclavian artery. The pharyngeal arch 4 and all of its derivatives are supplied by the superior laryngeal nerve, which is the branch of the vagus nerve. So let's now move to the Pharyngeal Arch 5, which is actually regressed in the embryo and it does not give rise to any structure in the adult. So let's now move to the Pharyngeal Arch 6. The skeletal derivatives of the arch 6 include the cartilages of larynx, except the thyroid cartilage. The muscular derivatives of the arch 6 include the intrinsic muscles of the larynx except the cricothyroid, and we know that the cricothyroid is derived from the pharyngeal arch 4. Second, it will give rise to the upper muscles of the esophagus. So these are the muscular derivatives of the arch 6. The aortic arch derivatives of the arch 6 include the pulmonary arteries and the ductus arteriosus. So the pharyngeal arch 6 and all of its derivatives are supplied by the recurrent laryngeal nerve, which is also a branch of the vagus nerve. So this was today's lecture. In the next lecture, we will be discussing the pharyngeal membranes and the pharyngeal grooves. So see you in next lecture.